The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. To the Timeline of Phoenix Suns podcast. Very, very excited about this week's episode. My name is Mike. I'm here with Sam. Sam, how are you doing?
You call it this week's episode, but we're pumping these out like every 2 days. I'm good. I had to take a day to myself to celebrate that series, but alas, the players don't get much time off, so neither do we. And now we're back to talk about the Denver Nuggets. Really excited to talk to the couple guys we have on today.
Yeah, this feels like a more normal episode. We're back to recording on the weekend like we normally do, so it just feels a little more normal to me. Joining us right now, I'm very excited about this, the Ringer's own, the best, I've called him before, the best basketball man on YouTube, J. Kyle Mann. Kyle, how you doing?
I'm doing good and very good, and I appreciate that. That's a nice compliment. Thank you. There's a lot of smart people on YouTube. I wouldn't say that that's true, but there's a lot of no, not that there's not. I wouldn't say that I'm the best. I would say there's a lot of people. It's a very competitive environment for sure.
Yeah, I think you do a really great job of being informative, but also making the videos entertaining, and that is really, really hard to do. As someone who's made YouTube videos myself, that's really hard to do. I just want to say, Kyle, when we first had you on, we had you on in our mind as the Dime Drops J. Kyle Mann.
Yeah.
That was right at the time that you first started making videos for The Ringer. You've done a lot of excellent content for them so far, and now you're staying up late at night recording postseason game podcasts with Bill Simmons.
Yeah.
I just have to say, it's very, very cool to hear you talk to him. I'm very happy for you. I imagine your life has changed. What has that been like for you?
Well, I mean, the first episode I did with him, I think I tweeted something about how surreal it is. I've been real transparent about it. I mean, Bill was my hero. Like, a huge influence on me. I think you can see that too. And early on in like the Page 2 days of like ESPN.com, you guys are a little younger than me, so I mean, I don't know if did you guys read Page 2 back then? Like
I did, yeah.
Mike did. He's not.
I'm
that
also
much
old like you. Yeah.
Okay. I've been getting a lot of shit for being old today specifically. I just want to say, Mark Schindler, shut up. But and also, I'm younger than Dave DeFore and Ben Taylor. I just want to put that out there. I'm the youngest of that trio. Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, I mean. I've had to demystify it a little bit, yeah, just because for so long I've consumed everything Bill's done, and I was telling you guys, Bill's a really, really good host. I think that he deserves a lot of credit for that. So it's been a fun transition into doing that. I've had a blast.
You're doing a great job, so I appreciate you being there. I just want to start right off. The Suns defeated the Lakers against a lot of odds. I'm not going to say against all odds. It was a 2 versus 7 seed. Obviously, Anthony Davis injured, Chris Paul injured. A very odd series that ended up with the Suns winning 3 in a row to close it out. What are your general thoughts on that series? What did you think about the Suns defeating the Lakers?
I mean, the Anthony Davis part looms pretty huge. I mean, because he looms pretty huge on the court. I think that I mentioned this on the Simmons Reaction Pod the other night, that just, you know, in terms of rim protection, a lot more goes on before the ball is at the rim. You know, a lot of the things, and Davis is one of the best players in the world in that sense. I made the argument that I think he's the most versatile player in the world in that sense if he's healthy. I made that argument in our top 25 players thing. So, I mean, I'm sure Suns fans would acknowledge this. Him not being there really made all the difference. But you also have to kind of look at the fact that we've seen this happen a couple times. I think it happened with Miami last year. I think that whenever you just see sort of a cult of personality thing happen sometimes with young teams, and in the video specifically I made about Chris Paul, which we'll probably talk about, I guess. I could see his impact on them in terms of the poise that they had when it came time to, like, okay, AD went down, but you know the Lakers made some runs. But Phoenix didn't there was just sort of a level up maturity that I saw in them in the way that they executed. I mean, they've executed really well all year. They've been one of the best execution teams in the league. And it's been, his impact has been, Chris's impact has been, I compared it to like a CEO coming into like a startup and leveling them up. And I think that's what he's started to do. And also just the fact that his like offense wasn't necessarily the biggest part of it there at the end, you know? And I just think his personality made an imprint on this team, and it's been pretty crazy to watch. Pretty impressive.
I do want to talk a lot about Chris Paul a little bit later, but I think we can agree overall his series impact was not there what it normally would be. With so much focus kind of on Booker's heroics in the final two games there, was he the guy who you were most taken with from a Suns perspective, or is there a different guy that you could single out? You know, like I heard you guys on the Bill Simmons podcast talking about Jay Crowder. Yeah. And the impact he had in this series, finally kind of getting over the hump against LeBron. Ayton, huge series for him. So kind of who was it for you for the Suns in that series?
I haven't heard any like anecdotal direct evidence of this, but I do suspect that CP's like impact on Ayton has been big too, to the point almost where totally. I mean he was finishing. He still, when he got into situations where he was being asked to like get on that borderline of like, and I made this point that at some point, like the bridge for him to go into to really continue his growth is like creating it for himself. A lot of what he was doing, and really impressed with his finishing, his efficiency at the rim, things like that is, rotational. Like he was really solid rotationally in the series. I was impressed with him. Crowder, I think, is another person who like just had an impact on sort of the mental resolve of the team too, the toughness. When his shots started going in, I mean, that was a damning thing for the Lakers. I made a point about that. God, how many did he miss? What was the percentage? I know you guys know. He was at 20% going into Game 6. Jesus,
and then he shot like, I don't know, he made at least 4 or 5.
Yeah, he started banging them. I mean, I was impressed with him. I was impressed with Bridges, too, his off-ball activity. They did not make it easy. I mean, like LeBron, these things compounded. I mean, LeBron doesn't have the same gear to get to the bucket at will like he used to, which really impacted the way that Phoenix played them. They also, I mean, these things just snowballed. The fact that he declined in terms of his mobility, the fact that that allowed Phoenix to play him differently, but they also just couldn't put like competent creator shooters on the floor with him, which just really made it difficult. But I thought Bridges, when he wasn't on LeBron, when he was off ball, did a great job monitoring those kind of skip paths, those passing lanes that LeBron loves to exploit, and he's one of the best. I mean, he kind of pioneered that passing style, honestly, and they did a good job, mucking that stuff up so that their offense was even further bogged down. I was impressed with him. Obviously, Campaign was just off the charts. I mean, just fearless. I mean, he attacked LeBron specifically.
He did
a lot. I actually could probably pull it up and find out for sure here, since we have fancy software now. If you don't mind me to take a beat here, let's see.
I would love.
You have fancy software.
I think I just want to say it again. I've said it over and over again while you're looking that up. There might not be a better story in the playoffs than Campaign. Just how insane it is that he was out of the league and now is contributing on a good team in a way that is like vital contributions. The Suns would not have won, especially early. I mean, obviously Game 6 was a bit of a down game for him, but every game before that, he was excellent. And it's just a crazy thing for him to go from China to the playoffs.
Is there a more fun hipster nerd NBA Twitter matchup in the second round than Campaign versus Monte Morris?
Yeah,
I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
I'll say something. They don't win that Game 6 without Monte Morris. Like, that was right. He came in, and his minutes when Campazzo wasn't out there were huge. He made like a ton of big plays. That last pick and roll play that he made with Jokic, where I think Jokic slipped and he pretty sure he threw like a lefty pocket pass to Jokic in traffic that was gorgeous. Mm-hmm. He's going to be a question mark. If he ramps up his production and plays really well, that's a thing for them to account for. I mean, I know you were like half kidding, but that is going to be a fun. I know Monte is like a fairly legendary joke. Advanced stats guy on Twitter, but I'm not seeing like a huge volume. Sometimes these tracking things aren't right, but yeah, he campaign attacked LeBron and Marc Gasol pretty relentlessly when given the chance and pretty fearlessly. He played well. I know people here are rooting for him. He's another Murray State guy. Of course, they're my alma mater's rival, Morehead State, so I'm not supposed to root for him. Just down the line, I mean, it was a really impressive outing by the Suns.
Something that you talked about was the style of passing, I think, that you said LeBron James pioneered. The Suns, in a weird way, once Anthony Davis is out, I feel like playing defense against that team in the way that they played kind of did prepare the Suns to play against the Nuggets. A lot of what I'm thinking about now is how the Suns are going to defend the Nuggets, and I think in a lot of ways, maybe you do end up putting Mikal Bridges on Campazzo or Rivers sort of in a point of attack role, but because the Nuggets play through Jokic so much, then he's gonna be able to play that sort of helper role a lot more, similar to when he was not on LeBron for the Lakers. When you think about the matchup between the Suns and the Nuggets, I mean, I don't know if you've done a lot of deep dive research into this because we're just starting to get into it now too, but how do you envision how the Suns are going to defend them?
Well, the Nuggets are a tough team because, and I've talked about this a little bit in the past, they're not a lot of teams that are centered around one offensive player have, longer touch times, things like that, where you can start to really focus and load up your offensive, your defensive focus. And in the playoffs, teams get really creative with that kind of stuff. The Nuggets are really tough because Jokic doesn't touch the ball very long and doesn't have to touch the ball very long to make a really great decision that'll lead directly to a basket. But then also you have the fact that you can't double him because he's seen every variation of – I mean, you can. You're welcome to. It's just that and the Suns have a lot of, rangy, versatile defenders that are quick and smart defenders too, so that's going to be interesting. I mean, like Chris Paul specifically, as much as he's kind of fallen off in like on-ball foot speed, he's a very clever off-ball defender, sneaking up, getting his hands on things. That'll be interesting. But that's one of the real challenges with them. I mean, Ayton really is going to have his work cut out for him, but in terms of like DHOs, in terms of cutters, they're a tough team to play because they are really, really going to work you in terms of your off-ball focus. Jokic can sort of Jokic is kind of like he can play like 5 games of blackjack at the same time and kind of know the count in each one in real time. And that's just kind of the way he is as a player. And that's why he's so maddening to defend. So that's going to be a challenge. MPJ, I think, is another. What do you guys think about that? Who do you think you're going to throw at MPJ?
My initial impression was Bridges. Actually, MPJ's done really well on him in the regular season. It might end up being Crowder. It's got to be one of those guys.
Yeah.
I don't know. My first impression, who would be better, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of tough because when you're thinking about who, it's weird because we're going to get to talk to TJ later, our friend TJ that covers the Nuggets, about who he thinks they're going to start, because the way that they've started, the Suns played the Nuggets twice early on this year, and 3 times really, and none of those games matter. Because they look completely different. 4 of their starters are no longer starting for them. Some of them are not even on the team anymore for the Nuggets, and Devin Booker was hurt in one of those games. And even beyond all that, I commonly talk for the Suns about the day the season started was February 1st because it was like preseason before that. Devin Booker and Chris Paul just did not know how to play with each other yet. In a lot of ways, Chris Paul was treating Devin Booker like J.J. Redick in certain plays and giving him the balls in places that a commonly lights-out three-point shooter would want the ball. And it took a little bit of time for those guys to get their roles together. And all of the games versus the Nuggets were before that February 1st date. Mm-hmm. So it's an odd thing where you can't really take anything from those games. So it's hard to quite figure that out. And also, even just the Nuggets, obviously no Jamal Murray, who kills the Suns, and Michael Porter Jr., a completely different player for the last few months. I have a feeling that they're going to put Jay Crowder on Michael Porter Jr. and have Mikal hound whatever ball handler is touching the ball when Jokic is not touching the ball. That's just kind of my feeling on that because that just tends to be what they've done throughout the season.
Yeah.
But I'm not quite I'm not quite sure. I think that it could be one of either of those two guys on Michael Porter Jr. And I feel like, man, he was free against those Portland Trailblazers. They were not.
Oh yeah.
They were not defending him well.
I was going to say, well, I think the board kind of gets implied here. If you think about, I mean, Aaron Gordon is the obvious thing to think about here. I would assume that Crowder would need to take Gordon since he's a little bulkier. I mean, I don't know. I'm guessing if you want to try to take away, the thing about Porter is he doesn't really need to attack off the bounce to get to what he wants to get to. He's sort of like Charks called him like a 6'11" Klay Thompson type. I mean, like he doesn't have to dribble. I was making this point the other day on Twitter that like it really is insane, not to launch into like a development conversation about him. It is just insane how seamlessly all that stuff has translated for him from level to level. Yeah. Like he's literally doing the exact same things that he was doing in like, in high school and summer ball. But I don't know. Gordon, I guess, is an interesting thing there for them. Not as like offensively aggressive. You could, I guess, maybe gamble and try to live with his spot up. But yeah, like the Nuggets are just this evolving, hard to pin down thing because Jokic is such a floor raiser. I mean, like you can really just kind of plug in certain types of pieces to him. He's that motherboard kind of metaphor that I've used before too. That like, and we've seen too that he has another gear to go to in terms of asserting himself offensively. But it's been interesting too just to see them kind of in the aggregate make up some of the offense that they lost with Murray through Rivers. I mean, it's really amazing how much Rivers and Morris, but it's just amazing how much of an impact Rivers had on that series. Blazers fans have to be just furious about their luck with that.
Yeah, and I wonder how confident Nuggets fans are too, by the way, in that.
Well, they had the second best effective field goal percentage on spot-up jumpers in that series, second only to the Nets, like 67%, shooting close to 50% from deep.
Wow.
Shot the hell out of the ball, so we'll see if they can sustain it over the second round. You talked about Chris Paul a few minutes ago, Kyle. You mentioned his off-ball defense. You mentioned another thing that came up in your video, so I want to transition over to the video. You put out a video for The Ringer now. All of them are great. I always recommend anyone to go and check them out. This one is called Chris Paul is a Basketball Comet, and really about the formula for longevity. For specifically Paul, who is a small point guard in the NBA. You start off the video talking about it's difficult for a guy of his physical stature to survive in the NBA for as long as he has. I want to go behind the scenes first a little bit because I know these videos take such a long time for you to make.
Too long, embarrassing long. Like there's no excuse for it. Like it's not
no.
Oh yes, the art just has to. No, I take too long. I'm slow.
No,
I'm not fast.
Well, here's one question. There's plenty of excuse for it because they're amazing. Just the beginning montages. I know you did this with like Anthony Edwards.
Now, I'm not going to tell you how I did it if that's what you're going to ask.
How long does just that 20-second montage take you to find those clips?
If I'm being dead serious, that took me like a day and a half to do that. And when I got to the end of it, I always have these moments where I'm like a tile worker, like a, you know what I mean? Like where I'll be like putting down the tile for a long time and then I'll step back and I'll be like, oh my God, is this fucking stupid? What did I just do? What did I just do? I do that all the time. So, I mean, yeah, that took a while to do.
So the way I think about it, it's probably like bottom of the 8th inning. I know Mike hates baseball talk, but accept the metaphor. And Chris Paul goes down in game 1. Like you're almost done with this video and Chris Paul goes down in game 1. Can you explain where you were in the process? Did you watch that moment live? What was your reaction to that? Did you feel like you had just cursed?
Well, we talked about it a little bit. I mean, I was really close to driving to the Humana building here in Louisville and jumping. That's how close I was. I was, yeah, I mean, I'd literally just finished, like I'd rendered that video and spent a lot of time on it. And then when he got hurt, I was just pacing around my house like I had money on the game. My wife was laughing at me, but yeah, she was like, oh no. It just... It was nuts. I mean, this happened to me last year too with the Nuggets. Interestingly enough, last year this happened to me where I made a video where I kind of like let the Nuggets have it because they'd had a couple games in a row where they'd kind of phoned it in, and I was being really critical of them. And then an even longer video that took longer to make, and then they went on that run, and I was just like, well, that was an enormous waste of time. But that kind of that just happens in the playoffs. It's kind of my slow process colliding with a moving target. And but I mean, I was really happy that he came back. I was living and dying with his with his health. I'm really thankful that he did for my selfish reasons, but also because whenever I do these videos and I study people, I come to root for them. It almost never fails. And Chris Paul is. You were talking about how hard it is to survive, and I started to go into this in the video that, I mean, I don't know that people probably do realize this. I think it's just when you start to really think about specifically him at his height to do what he does at the level that he does it at, when you consider just looking at if you took like a census of the basketball world, there are just infinitely more people in that height range playing basketball. I mean, I don't know if people realize how many good basketball players there are in the world that are like 6'1", 6'2",
Right.
So for him to do this, I think it just it really emphasizes how special Chris Paul, Steve Nash, and John Stockton are, like, in terms of their ball skills. I know it seemed cliche to be like, you got to be able to shoot, dribble, and pass. It's like, well, no shit. Yeah, but I mean, they like these guys, for them to do that at an elite level in all three categories, it seems simple, but it is not. Like, Chris Paul is one of the most skilled basketball players ever to play the sport, and I think that's pretty safe to say. If he'd been 6'7", imagine if he'd been 6'6", 6'7". I mean, he'd probably have a couple MVPs, honestly, if you took his skill level and just leveled it up. But I think a lot of the stuff that he developed over time was the result of just sort of the Darwinism of basketball, like a small guy living – obviously, like, insane, like, coordination, insane hand-eye, and his personality works with that too. But I think a lot of his survival ability just came from the problem-solving that he dealt with as being a small player, and those things have allowed him to stay on the floor.
First of all, anyone who hasn't watched this video, go find it. It's on the Ringers YouTube channel. It says Chris Paul is a basketball comet. I think it does a really good job of talking about exactly what you just mentioned here, just the unlikelihood of him actually being successful this long at his size, and it's incredible. And you mentioned being a fan of him by the end of that, sort of rooting for him. Do you think, well, for example, one of your colleagues at the Ringer, Shea Serrano, called Chris Paul a villain on Twitter recently. Do you think that there is a chance that NBA fans as a whole, maybe outside of Nuggets or Lakers fans, outside of Suns fans, rally around Chris Paul in any way if the Suns do end up making a run and looking like they have a chance to make the finals? Because, look, you don't have to root for a Jokic title right now. You don't have to root for a Luka title right now because they're probably going to have more chances going forward. In fact, I'm terrified of the Nuggets next year once Jamal Murray is healthy. But Chris Paul, 36 years old, and on a very good team, and the West is sort of wide open right now. How do you think fans outside of the ones that are rooting either for or against him right now will feel about him if they have a chance?
I mean, I touch on this in the video. I mean, he's had an understandable reputation throughout. I mean, I don't think that the thing about Chris Paul is I don't really think he minds. Like, he doesn't really seem to care if people, he's really obsessed with one thing, and that's winning. I mean, there was a clip that I almost put in the video about him just talking to some younger players where he was saying he's heard other NBA players talk about once if they get XYZ money, they'd be fine if they were done. And he was just like, I can't identify with that at all. And that's kind of, so if you are a pure basketball fan, I know that like other fan bases have had run-ins with him over the years that have been, I mean, he has a way of competing on a level. He'll do whatever it takes to win. And I mean, and that has turned a lot of people against him. I mean, he's had sort of a villain vibe throughout his career. I can understand why Shea would say that. I'm me not having a team. I guess I don't really. I haven't really. My dog's barking. Sorry. I haven't really identified. I guess I've been up and down with him in a similar way that I was with Kobe. I mean, there's been times where I've kind of like rolled my eyes at him, just like, "What do you give me? Come on, man." But those other things that I was talking about, just that he clearly. Is just all about basketball and all about winning, and now he's transitioned into this like all about helping these younger teams level up. I would think that would be a narrative that people could identify with. I can't speak to the specific beefs that like Lakers fans have had with Chris Paul over the years. I mean, I know him like mimicking LeBron's post up was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. LeBron asked for that. I mean, that was like
100%.
You know, I have utmost appreciation for LeBron, but he totally asked for that. And I also kind of knew how the Suns were feeling towards the end of that game whenever that started to happen, whenever they were like really hamming it up and it looked like they were in trouble. Like, I mean, I played on some losing teams when I was playing, and we would get just, you know, blown out at an opponent's gym. It's a horrible feeling. So, I mean, but their chestiness to kind of bounce back from that, they didn't quit at all. And, I mean, I think that I'm not going to say that stuff wasn't already there because Booker's a pretty tough sucker. I mean, he's a pretty tough-minded guy. But, you know, Paul's had a tremendous impact on them in that sense. And I think if you're a basketball fan, yeah, I would. You should be rooting for him. That's what I would say.
Another one of my favorite things about the video that you really reminded me of, you show the clips of him on the Hornets.
Oh yeah, I love that. That was fun. Yeah.
And I know like you're old, so you were, you know, however old at that time. I was a kid. That's like when I was first getting into the NBA, right? That was like peak Steve Nash, young Chris Paul. But obviously I knew how Chris Paul played even at that age, but like he's darting into passing lanes, he's sprinting down the full length of the court, he's throwing down a dunk, even if it's like a two-handed dunk. And you just see the speed, the real athleticism that Chris Paul used to play with. I thought it was a really interesting reminder of the transformation, the body transformation and the game transformation he's had to still be effective at this point. You also throw out a Monty Williams quote, which I loved, where he says, "I wish it was X's and O's, but it's just, you know, it's just not." I forget exactly what he says there, but like it's just his feel to be able to snake the pick and roll and get to his spots, that right elbow like he does, even at age 36. By the time we got to games 5 and 6 of this Lakers series, it was still clear that that shoulder wasn't 100%, right? Mm-hmm. He still wasn't really shooting threes. The few threes he did attempt, they didn't feel good to him. That was pretty clear. But otherwise, were you relatively encouraged by what you saw from Chris Paul kind of just in the past couple games? And how do you think that maybe projects forward for the rest of this playoff series or the rest of this playoff run for Phoenix?
In terms of how other teams play him, it's going to be, I don't know. I would imagine he's still on the up and up. It's weird. He kind of looked a little bit better in Game 5 than he did in Game 6. Like it seemed like did you all notice that? It seemed like he looked a little more confident in it. Yeah. Maybe when he got hit towards the end of, was that in 5?
Yeah.
When he got hit. Yeah. Maybe that's what it was, that it just kind of aggravated it.
I think he also played. No, never mind. Keep going.
Well, he hit a 3 in Game 5. I don't think he did in Game 6. So that alone, as its own metric, I think matters.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about him, too, is that, like, and this is another reason why he's had the longevity that he's had, and, like, a lot of the great players have this, is just his sense for playmaking and scoring balance is that, like, you can't bait him into, and that's why some of these guards don't age gracefully, is because they lean so hard in one direction, and, you know, personality and how they want to play factors into those kinds of things. I mean, if you think about the way Allen Iverson left the league, I mean, it was pretty polar opposite. He was pretty insistent on playing a certain way, but you can't really do that to Chris Paul. So, I mean, if your strategy is to kind of play uphill off of him and get, you know, maybe get in Devin Booker's sight lines, things like that. I don't feel super confident about doing that. I mean, is your strategy going to be to like dare Chris Paul to shoot? I don't think so. And the thing is too is that like he's got such incredible pace in the middle of the floor. Unless he is just like cannot do anything with his right hand the way he was in that first time back, I don't know that it's going to have a colossal impact. Just because you know, he affects the team in other ways. And they've demonstrated that they can put the offense on the board. The problem is like the issue will be that the Nuggets are going to be a much better like offensively fluid team than the Lakers were. So I mean, they could maybe get away with that. I mean, they might be asked to like just flat out score more points in this series because they were just in a much better position to outdo LA on offense in that last series.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. I want to say I appreciate you spending the time that you do on making videos, especially about Suns players. I think now we've gotten a Mikal Bridges video from you. a DeAndre Ayton video from you, and now a Chris Paul video. I don't think you've done one yet. I hope we get a Devin Booker video from you at some point, because I think you are in the perfect position to really talk about the difference between what he was in college and what he is now in the NBA, being that you were around and watching him through all of that. So that was great. I also want to say thank you for picking the Suns on the Bill Simmons podcast. That was nice to hear on that podcast. Obviously, go watch all the videos that Kyle makes on the Ringers YouTube channel. Follow him on Twitter. Kyle, is there anything else that you would like to plug?
Kevin O'Connor and I know you guys are buddies with him. We are going to be doing a Sunday night reaction and preview playoff pod for the playoffs. I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure what the timeline is on that, but we'll be doing it for a little bit at least. And so listen to that. That's going to be on the Ringer NBA feed. And then, I don't know, in the not too distant future, I'm going to be ramping into some draft stuff and hopefully some silly off-season projects, ideally. But yeah, that's what I got going on.
Thanks again for joining us, Kyle.
My pleasure.
We'll be right back with our friend TJ to really preview the Nuggets versus Suns. All right, I'm very excited about this. Joining us, someone who's covered the Nuggets for quite a while, TJ McBride. TJ, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I got coffee in hand. It could be a lot worse.
Very nice. We were just talking before we started recording here, and I was just saying that when I went into the Lakers series just sort of pre-hating the Lakers, and I'm going into this Nuggets series without any of that sort of extra hate that comes with the playoffs. I mean, it might happen. I'm not going to pretend like it might not happen. I mean, I like the Nuggets now. Who knows what it's going to turn into? But I'm looking forward to this matchup. How do you feel about this? Just from a general perspective, how do you feel about the Suns versus the Nuggets in the second round?
So I cannot wait. What's great for me is I'm not a Nuggets fan. I've just been able to watch this team that I really appreciate throughout so many years now. So I can still be excited for this Nuggets team and be excited to see where they can go and how far they can push this absurd run with everybody injured. But at the same time, if the Suns win and are able to play a great series, I'm very much so looking forward to that. This to me feels like a buffed up version of the Portland-Denver series that we just saw. And if that was any indication, we are in for a very, very fun ride ahead of us. So for me, when I was starting to watch film and pull some stats and get an idea of what is to come, I was just beyond excited because the more I looked, the more interesting the series got.
I'm almost surprised you can even say that without getting Nuggets fans on your case, because
Nuggets fans know that I'm not a fans guy. They have all accepted this reality that I don't want to deal with that at all.
That's rare.
So this is very, very well known for me at this point. I actually grew up a Lakers fan, so they
have
to deal with that part as well. I grew up in Los Angeles, so like that was my neck of the woods, and everything in that area is ran by the Lakers. So I'm not a Lakers fan anymore. You know how fandom dies when you start to cover the league. But yeah, I've definitely had my fair share of pushback from Nuggets fans due to these kinds of circumstances.
That's hilarious. I had no idea that you were, in your previous life, a Lakers fan. It's just kind of an odd thing, and I know everyone's talking about this that's covering this series, but you can take nothing. You can take nothing from the games that the Nuggets and the Suns played this season. Yep. They just don't matter at all. And there's multiple reasons why, but just to remind Suns fans and people listening, if you forgot, the reason why is, one, I commonly refer to February 1st as the beginning of the season for the Suns because I just feel like they did not click until February 1st. All three games versus the Nuggets were before that date. 4 out of the 5 Nuggets starters are no longer starting, or some are not on the team for the Nuggets in those games. One of the games, Devin Booker was hurt in overtime and then did not play the second game, which was also, I think, a double overtime game. There's just so many reasons why you just can't go back and watch those games and sort of learn anything from it. The Nuggets have been really good since Jamal Murray went down. Surprisingly good, I think it's fair to say. What has it been like watching this? For those who maybe haven't watched a ton of the Nuggets since the Jamal Murray injury, how have they been able to maintain the pace that they're playing at?
So it's so interesting because the two different perspectives are the people who watch the Nuggets a lot and don't. And the people who have been around this team, they know that Nikola Jokic and Michael Malone have instilled this never say die attitude that is no longer a cliche. It has become their identity. Like, they pride themselves on this weird, I will get punched in the face 14 times and get up 15 times kind of monikers that they really do embody at this point. So while I would say I'm surprised, because it's frankly insane you can be down 3 of your best 4 guards, play Portland, and win in 6, but at the same time, this is what the Nuggets keep doing. There has not been a single playoff experience in the past 3 years where Denver did not have a major injury that they were contending with. So this is not new to them. This is how they play basketball. I mean, how many times did Nikola Jokic have 7 dudes on his team that were able to play, 3 of which were in the G League 2 weeks ago, 1 of which had played 9 minutes of NBA basketball, and they still managed to win games on the second night of back-to-backs. They consistently find a way to do this. So I'm not surprised, and frankly, what it comes down to is Denver's role players have stepped up. That idea of never say die is no longer just Michael Malone and Nikola Jokic. It's Austin Rivers. It's Facu Campazzo. It's Marcus Howard from nowhere. I mean, Marcus Howard is a rookie in arguably the toughest season any rookie has ever experienced in the NBA as a whole, who just stepped into a playoff series and started hitting 50% of his threes.
Yeah.
So, like, these things are bizarre. They feel unstable and unreliable, but yet they keep happening. So it's disorienting, but I want to believe in it. I really do.
I'm sure Nuggets fans are asking you every day and are anxiously awaiting updates on guys like Barton and PJ Dozier, right? Because like any guys, nothing against Marcus Howard, as you just said, phenomenal first-round series, but just anything to beef up that depth chart a little bit, you would think would make you guys a little more confident. And yet at the end of the day, it kind of all comes down to Nikola Jokic, right? Like, what he did in that first-round series was amazing. I mean, 33 points per game, 10.5 rebounds, only 4.5 assists for him. But what's so fascinating about where we've gotten to his point of development here is just embracing the scoring role. And I just posted the shot chart on Twitter. I don't even know where to begin with trying to stop that guy on defense if I'm the Suns. So I guess just like give us a vibe check. How would you say, because you're not a Nuggets fan, right? But you interact with Nuggets fans all the time. How do they feel going into this series, would you say? What's their level of confidence after what was a hard-fought series against Portland?
So that locker room, what I can say is they feel no different right now from when they started the playoffs against Portland. They know who they are, they know what they can do, and they have not wavered in any capacity. Nuggets fans are they're just riding the high. I mean, you're playing with house money. This is like going up $500 in the first 30 minutes in Vegas and just betting big for the next 3. Like, that's kind of where Denver fans are at, and I don't blame them. Like, I see people being like Nuggets in 5, Nuggets in 6, and well, I think we're a little ahead of the curve when you get to that point. They have reason to believe that. So as my guy Brendan Vogt at DNVR would say, the vibes are immaculate, and that's where the Nuggets are at, and they're enjoying themselves. It really is special. And what's so funny is you go back to the Nikola Jokic part that you were saying to start this, and the way that he was able to literally destroy the entire fabric of the franchise that is the Portland Trailblazers at this point. It was so bad, though. And credit to Adam Mares of DNVR for pointing this out as well. They were literally, when there was a pick and roll and Jusuf Nurkic was in a drop, he wasn't even taking a step away from Jokic. He was letting Monte Morris walk to the rim. That's how terrified they were. They were not willing to have anybody have even a remote inch of space away from Nikola Jokic, even if it meant giving up uncontested layups. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of impactful player he is on offense. Right. Even with the numbers, even with all the stats that you can throw out there, it's not as meaningful as just those small things that impact the game on a more of a meta level, where now everything functions because Nikola Jokic strikes so much fear into them.
Yeah, and the fear of even helping off of other guys because of what he can do with the ball at that point it makes it even more difficult.
Yep.
But he was still able to score, even with Nurkic just being all over him, he was still able to score really efficiently. Now, even though I said there's not a lot to learn from the early games, I do want to just point out one quote by Nikola Jokic after they played the Suns. He said about Ayton, he plays really good defense. He stopped me 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Give that guy credit. He was really good tonight. And he really went sort of over the top almost in giving DeAndre Ayton praise for how he played defense on Jokic. When you think about the matchup with DeAndre Ayton, who, for whatever reason, has always played the Nuggets really well, not just defensively. He even has scored relatively well against the Nuggets throughout his career. He even had a 24-point quarter against the Nuggets in his rookie year. Ayton's always just played the Nuggets relatively well. When you think about that matchup, what comes to mind to you?
So I want to start this by saying Jokic is inevitable. No matter how good your defense is, he is still inevitable. Like Rudy Gobert knows this better than anybody. You can be the best defensive center on the planet, and it just doesn't matter. So I want to say that first, just to kind of get it out of the way. Because what DeAndre Ayton has done compared to other centers against Nikola Jokic is significantly more impactful than many others. And what it allows you to do as the Phoenix Suns is at least hope you can make Jokic's life a little bit more difficult without sending help. Having just one person who can at least physically occupy Jokic is a ginormous deal. That was what allowed the Portland Trailblazers to keep those Jokic minutes essentially even. When you go look at the breakdown of where the Nuggets won that Portland series, it was not the Jokic minutes. It was the bench minutes. Denver won the non-Jokic minutes, and that's what allowed them to win. They played them virtually even with Jokic on the court, and that was because they were able to defend him with one person, just Jusuf Nurkic, even though he was still able to put up whatever he wanted offensively as a scorer. They took away everything else. I think you can do the same thing with DeAndre Ayton. That's why I put so many comparisons between last series and this series. With that being said, too, the DeAndre Ayton thing is fascinating because the very first game that they played against each other, Nikola Jokic had a 34-point, 11 rebound, 11 assist triple-double on 11 of 11 shooting with only one missed free throw and no turnovers.
I remember that.
It was the most complete game that I have ever witnessed in my personal life. And ever since that moment, and I remember DeAndre Ayton after the game being like, wow, I didn't realize how much work I had to do.
And how strong he was. I remember that too.
And he was just so stunned about how advanced the league was compared to what he expected after that moment. And ever since that moment, DeAndre Ayton has been a different animal against this Denver Nuggets team. Credit to him. He stepped up in ways that I didn't think he was physically able to against a guy like Nikola Jokic that just can't really be stopped. So that's going to be the most interesting part of this series is DeAndre Ayton for both teams.
So I just want to throw out the stats Mike was talking about here because they're semi-reliable when you go to the NBA's website. You guys know the ones I'm talking about. The matchup stats, but I think, here's what they say. That Jokic shot 13 of 34 in the 3 games matched up against DeAndre Ayton this year against almost every other guy that Jokic played, most of his possessions against. His field goal percentage was consistently in the 55, 60, even 65% range. Against Ayton, he was only 13 for 34 compared to Frank Kaminsky. When Kaminsky was in the game for the Phoenix Suns, I believe Dario Saric was injured at the time. He shot 5 of 7 against Kaminsky. He had 5 free throw attempts, and Kaminsky only guarded him for like 3 minutes. So just to show you the way, and look, right off the bat, like you said, TJ, Jokic is inevitable. There's going to be positive regression to the mean in those numbers against Ayton. But just to demonstrate the gap there between the level of defense we're talking about with the Suns from their starting guy to the drop-off you have when you go to the bench, Ayton needs to play 35, 40 minutes, and he needs to stay out of foul trouble in order for the Suns to have a chance to win. It's just going to be that important.
I would hard block their minutes. I would not play a single minute without Ayton on the floor with Nikola Jokic. If there's more than 5 minutes all series where they're not on the floor together, Denver's probably going to win that series.
I just want to point out one thing, though. I haven't had a chance to dive into a ton of film, but I watched Game 6 with you guys, and one thing that I want to point out, Ayton's going to be that guy. I really think this is a series where Ayton's going to single coverage Jokic because he's like one of the 5 or 10 guys in the league who can do it.
I agree.
And Jokic is going to score 30 or 40 points in most games anyway. And I think it's going to be a tough experience for Suns fans on the Twitter timeline because I think this is the type of series where we're going to see highlights posted of Jokic just taking it to Ayton, giving him dives, spin moves, just scoring on him. These really fancy highlights, and it's like, but you kind of got to live with that single coverage. You got to do whatever you can to not allow the Nuggets get into the flow of their offense, get into the handoffs, the cuts, the spot up shooting. One thing that I saw in Game 6 that I thought was just like, this is where I really thought, wow, this is what makes this Nuggets offense so hard to stop. Is I think it's one thing if Jokic is starting from the center of the floor, if he's comfortably pulling up, if he's taking it to you in the low post, these kind of actions where he's going to score a lot of points, but at least you've got Ayton on him in single coverage and you feel good about the strength, the pound for pound comparison there. But I remember I saw one play where it was like Michael Porter Jr. gets the ball at the top of the key and Facu comes and sets like a flare screen for Jokic, who's on the wing.
Yes.
And Jokic dives in. Nurkic is caught on the screen for just a second, and you get a beautiful pass from MPJ, who is not a playmaking talent, at least not in the way we typically think of it. But you get Jokic like cutting towards the basket, coming downhill. He catches it in stride. And watching that said one thing to me, that it was like, it's one thing to try and throw Ayton at this guy in single coverage, where honestly, like just from the Suns fan perspective, I feel pretty confident about what Ayton is able to do. But like looking at stuff like that emphasizes how smart everyone else on this Nuggets team is. Because we all know the points have to come from Porter Jr. and Jokic, collectively speaking, most of them anyway. But the passing IQ that all of these guys have, the cerebral ability for them to find each other in space, and once you start including those actions where it forces Phoenix to read and react, and maybe you get a guard switching onto Jokic for just a second as he's coming downhill, you're toast. Like, Ayton has to be the primary guy on Jokic in every action, and if the Nuggets are able to counter that with ways to switch him onto other guys, that's where it becomes really, really difficult for the Suns to even theorize how they could stop that offense.
It's funny you say that. I actually pulled and actually tweeted out, I think, like 3 or 4 clips when I went back and watched the film from the Nuggets-Suns games earlier in the season, and the Nuggets did exactly that. They ran just so many pin-down screens using guards to get Nikola Jokic at the elbow, either able to shoot, able to drive, able to pass, draw a double. When you put him in that triple threat position, catching the ball with space and his guy trailing him, you're already almost dead. And I think that that is going to become their pet action to get Jokic in a position to succeed. I fully expect them to do so many pin down actions using Austin Rivers, Facu Campazzo, Monte Morris, all of these guys as that screen setter. I also think you'll see a lot of Spain pick and roll, especially when Monte Morris is in.
That's a Monty Williams favorite too.
Yes, I know. And it's going to be so funny because you're going to see Spain at one point, and I'm just going to be in basketball heaven just smiling. And I just cannot wait to see more of this. But yes, I think you're going to see so many pin down screens because that allows Jokic to choose the best option with the defense already trailing. And DeAndre Ayton, that's a great way to get him into foul trouble. Have him run over guards who are setting screens. You want to get an easy way to pick up some cheap fouls early in the game, that's a great way to do it. So I fully expect to see a lot of that. I expect to see a lot of off-ball screens to try and get Jokic's guy, because like what the Nuggets will do is they'll run those like baseline double drags to get Jokic into the right or left post and just force Ayton to go over and under 2 screens and see if he's able to do so without fouling and trucking someone over. So it's going to be fascinating to see those double rip sets that they love to run. I don't know if it's going to work as well as we think because the wings on Phoenix are so much better than they were on Portland.
Absolutely.
Just a quick head, just a quick show will give the quickness of DeAndre Ayton enough to catch up. So that's going to adjust a lot more, in my opinion, but that's going to be so fun to watch as Jokic in that triple threat position, catching the ball at the elbow and making decisions.
You know, you talk about the similarities between Portland and Phoenix and sort of the game plans that'll probably be implemented by the Suns. It may actually be similar to Portland. I think the big difference is, and I think you hit on it there, is Portland is really bad defensively, like really bad. Michael Porter Jr. was free in that series from what I've seen. This guy was able to get to spots way too easily, and it seemed like that type of thing is not necessarily going to happen for the Suns. And I think Portland, interestingly, would go under, I think, a lot of the ball screens for the Nuggets as well. Not afraid at all of any sort of pull-up three-point shooting from the Nuggets, which I thought was interesting and I think could benefit the Suns if they do something like that as well. But I think where I'm looking at who the Nuggets are starting, now I'm assuming it's going to be the same starting lineup, which is Campazzo, Rivers, Gordon, MPJ, and Jokic. Now, looking at that, at first I was sort of talking myself into Jay Crowder. By the way, Nuggets fans, get prepared. If anyone are listening to this, get prepared to hate Jay Crowder.
Oh, no. You know they have beef from the Utah days. Because Jay Crowder was in Utah, and him and Jokic got into a shoving match last time they were in Utah. So
it's his job. It's his job.
He
wants to get on the nerves of anyone either on the other team or anyone who likes the other team. So that's coming. But I think I've sort of talked myself into Aaron Gordon with Jay Crowder on him, Mikal Bridges on Michael Porter Jr. And the advantage of that, I think, is Jay Crowder is such a smart help defender, and you can sort of rely on, if you do help off of Aaron Gordon, that's a lot better than helping off of Michael Porter Jr. And then you just give sort of the role to Mikal Bridges just to lock down MPJ as much as possible. when you think about the matchup, that's the big difference. That's really the big difference, because I'm watching Game 6 now. I watched it right before we recorded now. And I'm asking myself, what the hell are the Portland Trailblazers doing multiple times? Because it's just completely insane how they're leaving guys open. And they're just not good. I mean, that's really what it is. They're just not good defenders. When you think about the Suns matching up, I think that defense is going to be a lot tighter for the Suns on the Nuggets. And do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think the IQ is the big difference here, because I don't know why Portland didn't switch the Covington and Powell whenever they were in the screening action. Like, why didn't you just flip that, Porter switching that one? Because then you don't have to worry about anything. You're not going to have Porter slipping through and getting a cut, or all of a sudden getting mismanaged and he's open for three. And I think you're going to see the Suns just switch it. Like, Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder are fine. There's no reason to not just switch that, keep everything easy, not expend extra energy, and still keep him in front of you. And that is all that you want to do with him.
And even if you get into the wing depth, I mean, the Suns bring in Cam Johnson into the game. They'll bring in Torrey Craig into the game, who I don't know if he has any
revenge game.
Yeah,
he'll have some.
I don't know if he has.
Torrey Craig will have some extra boost. I know that will be coming.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if he has lingering feelings about feeling slighted by Denver.
That the qualifying offer was rescinded for
now
no longer on the team.
I didn't know that the qualifying offer was rescinded. Well,
so they lost Jeremy Grant, and then they had to find a big, so they rescinded his qualifying offer and signed Isaiah Hartenstein to get another.
Oh, yeah, revenge game incoming, revenge series. But my point is, you look at all four of those guys, and all four of them are switchable. Like, the Suns really don't have to worry about any one of those wings being targeted so much, I don't think.
This is going to be a big Cam Johnson series, in my opinion. I think you're going to see him get blended into the starting unit quite a bit when they try and keep big and get extra shooting on the floor, because Phoenix doesn't shoot the three like Portland did. And that was the biggest issue for Denver, was the math game. And I think getting Cam Johnson as that first guy off the bench to spread the floor immediately, more so than Jay Crowder, and at least give you that boost going into the bench unit, will allow them a lot more space to be able to exist, where the Denver Nuggets against Portland were able to make up those points against the bench unit. So I'm very excited for the Cam Johnson series.
That's really interesting. And actually, he was pretty good in the first round series, and did an amazing thing when the series ended, which is wear a troll shirt for the Lakers with Mickey Mouse on it on Instagram after eliminating the Lakers, which I think if you're going to do something like that, you better come out and really perform in the next series, because you're being cocky on the internet, and you got to perform in order to not be made somewhat of a joke on the internet. What do you look?
Elephant in the room time. Defense.
What the hell are the Nuggets gonna do guarding the Suns? Because are you just saying they're gonna put Aaron Gordon on Devin Booker and just cross their fingers and hope? Is that the plan here?
I think so.
That's
what worked last series.
Okay.
So this is the thing with Denver, is that they know how to play together, and they play fundamentally sound defense. They're not going to ever blow anyone away. You're not going to just lock down and be able to just completely eliminate 3 minutes of a game for an opposing offense. That's not who they are. But with that being said, they know how to opportunistically come up with stops. They know how to be able to switch when they need to switch, how to fall back, how to play good backline defense. And frankly, I think, and this is my opinion, because I haven't watched enough Suns yet. I've watched the whole series one time through, but I started to actually kind of fine-tooth comb Game 5 and 6 just yesterday. But to me, it seems like Devin Booker is running so much more of the offense that being able to put Aaron Gordon on him and to at least remove most of the playmaking from the point of attack of the offense would be huge for the Denver Nuggets overall. And if Chris Paul is not able to be a guy you can swing the ball to and run offense to over and over and over again, that gives Denver a big advantage. Booker's going to get every point he wants. I'm not worried about that. But can you make life difficult at the point of attack? That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, man. This is a series. There's going to be.
They just did it to Dame.
I know they did. I'm saying there's going to be a lot of points scored in this series, and I think with Chris Paul looked more like. Chris Paul was awful in games 2 and 3, and I don't blame him whatsoever. But I'm saying by games 5 and 6. I think he looked like that guy who you can swing the ball to. And here's one other thing I'll say. It's all good vibes right now. I think both of these fan bases actually kind of uniquely like each other, which is pretty funny going into a second-round series, until Facu tugs a little bit too hard at Chris Paul's shoulder in maybe game 2 or 3, and then it'll be blood in the water, and I'll hate you guys forever if that happens.
Jay Crowder's pushing backup centers, and we're just getting all the way into it. I'm very prepared for that to happen.
I have some more questions about what you think the Nuggets are going to do. The Trailblazers actually did a pretty good job of forcing the Nuggets to switch and got some big guys out in the perimeter against the Trailblazers quite a bit. Even off the ball, I saw the Nuggets switching off the ball more often than I had expected them to do. Is that by design, or is that just Portland really forcing them out of their comfort zone by getting even Jokic out on the perimeter against guys?
I don't want to say it's by design because Michael Malone hates switching. Like, he's one of those archaic coaches who's like, why are you giving up? And it doesn't work well for the Nuggets. But with that being said, they don't have the personnel to not switch anymore. So that's kind of the way I'm viewing it. Is there are just some matchups that if you want to keep guys in front of you and contain it in any capacity, you just have to switch more. And that's what Denver has been doing, because how do you instill defensive chemistry in Austin Rivers, Facu Campazzo backcourt that has literally never played together until the last week of the season? So in my opinion, they're going to be switching a lot because that's what they've been doing. And it's just going to be a fight and a guts level defensive performance for Denver to win. And it's unfortunate because this is what the injuries do. When you don't have the size of Will Barton and you don't have the tenacity of a PJ Dozier, you don't have the pieces to defend a backcourt like this. You just don't have it. It was the same issue they had against Portland. So find the guts, switch as much as you can, do whatever it takes to keep them in front of you and not blowing by you. Don't let them, split hedges and things like that. Just keep everything in front of you and you can survive, and that's kind of been their way of going about it so far.
Might I suggest you have one piece who could maybe play some strong point of attack defense against these two guards?
You're talking about Shaq Harrison.
Shaq Harrison, baby!
I love Shaq Harrison. It's like a love language of me to watch defensive stoppers who can't shoot the basketball. Like, I love it. But at the same time, like, Michael Malone is very astute and understands that when you're playing this group of guys who are not going to be threats to most teams in the NBA, as shooters, I should say, to space the floor, putting Shaq Harrison out there who won't even occupy a defender is just completely damning your spacing. So that's why I think you've seen the Marcus Howard play more minutes over Shaq Harrison, despite the fact that they were playing Damian Lillard and TJ McCollum, was just to keep that floor space and have another shooter on there to occupy a defender.
Look, if Marcus Howard keeps shooting 45% from deep, then I get that, but I'm just saying if the Nuggets want to improve their defensive rating in this series by like 20 points, 15 minutes of Shaq Harrison might not be the worst idea.
Yeah, they'll have like a 92 defensive rating in those 15 minutes too. It'll be glorious. I wish they would play their all defensive lineups where they play like JaMychal Green, Paul Millsap, Aaron Gordon, Shaq Harrison, Austin Rivers, and just like go out there and be long and switch and have fun. I wish I would see more of that.
Hearing about that switching, I'm just going to write this down. Cameron Payne is going to feast. I'll just write that down now. Another question I have. The Suns... Look, I think there's a chance that the Suns give a chance back to Dario Saric to play some backup center minutes in this series. I don't think this is a Frank Kaminsky series, but what they did, if that didn't work, if either of those things didn't work, is they went small. Torrey Craig, Jay Crowder in at the same time, no big. Now, Millsap has essentially been playing, at least from what I've seen, and I only really rewatched the last two games, Millsap is just playing when Jokic is off the floor, basically just those minutes, it seems like, from what I can tell. If the Suns do go small in those non-Jokic minutes, non-Ayton minutes, do you see the Nuggets trying to match that by maybe like JaMychal Green at center or like even smaller if they have the guys to do it? Or do you think they just continue playing their game with who they have and see if they can defend those guys in that small formation?
What they've been doing since the end of the regular season in the last round that we just watched was they played Paul Millsap, JaMychal Green as their two bigs, with no center out there, with Michael Porter Jr. on the floor, and that gave them enough rebounding and enough offensive versatility to really kind of counteract whatever was thrown their way. The only thing that you can't control in that regard is being able to box out an actual center. They just didn't have the personnel to do that, which is why Terry Stotts made this very smart decision, in my opinion, to get Nurkic against the Nuggets bench, but then the Nuggets ended up drawing 9 fouls, and it went very, very badly for Youssef. But that switch, it killed Denver for like 6 minutes when they put like an actually physically dominant big against that bench unit. The Suns do not have that ability. Like, I don't think Frank Kaminsky fits in this series at all. I agree with you that I would play Dario over him at that backup 5, and I had that penciled in as something to look for in game 1 because I don't know what Frank does. I have absolutely no idea how he helps you in this series.
Well,
because if you go ahead. No, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I think he helps you in this series no less than he helps you in any series. So that's kind of but go ahead.
Yeah, that's not good. That's the DeAndre Ayton effect, and you do not want that to already be hanging over you, where you just can't play basketball against the best teams in basketball. And I think that's going to be the case. So I expect them to play small, which will play into Denver's hands, but at least gives the Suns more options to stay afloat, because I don't know what the other option is there. I would rather have a playmaking center out there as opposed to Kaminsky doing whatever it is that Frank Kaminsky does.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I just feel like you have to give Dario Saric a chance. And look, Dario's played basically, he looks like a rookie out there for the last few months. I don't know what happened. It's like his talent got zapped, Space Jam style, towards the end of the season. And I think that Jokic has played relatively well against Saric when Saric was in too. So if you can find a way to keep Ayton on the floor as much as possible with Jokic, if Ayton somehow gets in foul trouble, I don't want Kaminsky on there. I think you kind of have to go to Saric at first, and if that doesn't work, then you start helping off of other guys, and you have someone like Jay Crowder, Torrey Craig on Jokic, and just hoping to stop shooters at that point, which is a little tough and a little scary. That's the importance of DeAndre Ayton staying out of foul trouble and just contesting as much as possible. But I think Saric has the strength. He's not tall, but he's pretty strong, and he can't really be moved around pretty easily. And I think you got to give those guys I don't think they like each other. I think Saric and Jokic don't like each other.
I don't think Jokic even acknowledges those kinds of things. So I think Saric doesn't like Jokic, and Jokic is just kind of floating out in basketball nirvana doing what he does. So.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to put it. And I think in that sense, I think you kind of got to give him a chance and see if that can be channeled into something interesting as far as Saric, and maybe get him going a little bit going forward. But I'm really interested in those non-Jokic minutes. Somehow, the Nuggets won the non-Jokic minutes against the Portland Trailblazers. I'd be shocked if they did that against the Suns, but it's very important for the Suns to win those minutes, I think, in order to have a chance in this series.
The Michael Porter Jr., Paul Millsap, JaMychal Green trio is just out of this world flamethrower good. I'm trying to pull up the stats right now, but the internet's terrible. But that trio, during the regular season and the playoffs, has been the boon that they needed when Jokic was not on the court.
Yeah, that makes sense to me because, look, I'm trying not to take any of these offensive ratings and net ratings, anything from the Portland Trailblazers series after really watching their defense.
God,
I'm just trying not to really acknowledge that because it just doesn't feel like it's going to apply. It's so hard to really predict this series, I think, from that perspective. I feel maybe I'm wrong for this, but maybe you can talk me off of this if you think I'm wrong for this, but I feel pretty confident in the Suns going into this series. I think with the right kind of guard play involving Jokic in actions defensively, I think will help them a lot if they can somehow get him in foul trouble. Obviously, that's a big thing. And I just, Chris Paul's health obviously will matter a lot if he continues to get injured. Anytime somebody touches him in the wrong spot, that's going to be a difference maker in the series. But if he comes out looking 75, 85, 90% of Chris Paul, I feel pretty confident about what the matchup as far as the Suns in this series. What do you think about this just from that perspective, TJ?
I've been flipping between Suns in 6 and Denver in 7 basically every hour ever since we knew what the matchup was going to be. I'm still not at a place that I feel confident either direction. I'm going to feel a lot more confident after game 1, I think. I want to see the adjustments. This is going to be such a coach-heavy series, in my opinion, because both of these teams are unique, but also understand the counters that they have for each other. And because of that, you're going to see so many different subtle changes, I think, on a day-to-day basis. I think you're going to see a ton of pin downs from Denver in game 1. I think you're going to see a whole lot of switching more in game 2 from the Suns, which is then going to put Jokic in a mismatch, or are you going to bring the double? There's going to be so many alterations that happen between game 1 and halftime of game 2 that's really where I'm looking to see what changes, because I don't know how those are going to shake out yet, and this is so close, in my opinion, that those adjustments are going to be the difference maker in this series. So I have no confidence level in any kind of prediction at this point. I just can't wait to get going.
This is what I'll say is this is in no way a slight against the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, maybe a little bit, but whereas that series was kind of like you had to stop the Lakers from coasting on their top-tier talent, what's so interesting to me about this series is that it's just stacked to the brim on both sides with high IQ basketball players. And that's really where the adjustments start to come in. Also the fact that these two teams, they're just diametrically opposed in terms of what they do on offense. The Suns are this guard heavy. You got to check their pull-ups. You got to check their guards at the point of attack. The Nuggets run through Jokic and they suck in all that space and then look for options around him. It's going to be a fascinating chess match for sure.
And Michael Malone and Monty Williams are like, they have so much respect for each other too, which is going to add such a cool wrinkle to this when you start getting into the interview process, I think. Because both these guys have just supreme amounts of respect for each other, and they're going to go all out. I mean, this is an empty the clip series for both teams. There is no tomorrow anymore, even more so than it was against the Lakers or for Portland for Denver, I think. This kind of feels like a different level of playoff basketball now compared to the past series, and I can't wait to get going. And frankly, the Nuggets would have been better off against the Lakers, so they're in a tougher position now, in my opinion, than they would have been anyway. And I can't wait to see how that plays out. They like it that way.
Yep, I totally agree with that. And even from that empty the clip perspective, Chris Paul's 36. Like, and the guys on the Suns know that. It's not like it's just Chris Paul. The rest of the team knows that. I said it at the beginning of the season. Sam remembers. Adding a superstar is not just adding a superstar. You're adding the weight of that superstar's legacy onto the shoulders of every player that plays on the team. And I think the Suns players have been acutely aware of that this entire season. They understand that how they play and what they do and how they perform now affects the legacy of Chris Paul. And I think that's why they're going to be as locked in as they could possibly be. It's going to be fascinating. Not to mention, it's going to be a revenge series for Austin Rivers, who was briefly on the Suns.
Austin Rivers is like the legend of every team in basketball at this point. He has hopped around in such it's absolutely insane. But
he never played a minute. Never played a minute. But
he didn't play a single minute. I did not know that. I did not.
No, he was traded. He was traded with Oubre, and then just cut before he ever even put a jersey on. I think he never planned on playing with the Suns.
I don't know if this has been reported out. I think Adam Modes might have reported this, but Austin Rivers was vetoed to go to Milwaukee. They didn't even want him. They were like, nope, stay home. We don't even want you. And then came to Denver and is doing what he's doing. Talk about a fun story. I have endless amounts of respect for what Austin Rivers has done in these past few weeks.
Yeah.
He's your campaign.
Yes. I mean, that's got to be Monte Morris, by the way.
Monte Morris is your campaign in terms of like how they play, but Austin Rivers is your campaign.
I can't watch those two go back and forth though, because the IQ and the ability to know those vet tricks to get those advantages, both of them are just going to only be playing in that way, and it's going to be so fun to watch them match up.
I have to be honest. I love that the Nuggets are relying so much on Austin Rivers. I think that's an advantage for the Suns. But TJ, we're going to let you go. I appreciate you sticking around with us for so long. For people listening to this, we'll be back after every game. Make sure to go and follow TJ on Twitter. TJ McBride NBA is his handle. Is there anything else that you'd like to plug, TJ?
Nope, that's it for me. Let's talk some hoops on Twitter, and I can't wait for this series to go.
We appreciate you joining us.